G'day guys, how's it going? I'm Aaron Whitnall. This is ACWSport, and it's safe to say that week 5 of the 2017-2018 Premier League season wasn't the most exhilarating of weekends. That was, unless you're from Manchester, because the two Manchester sides blew away their opposition this weekend and really showed everyone why they are both favourites for the Premier League and why everyone seems to think the Premier League title will only be going to Manchester in May. Starting at Old Trafford. Going into the game, Manchester United versus Everton, Ronald Koeman had never actually lost a game at Old Trafford. He'd won 2 and drawn 1. However, Everton didn't exactly have the best record. They were a complete parallel to him. Everton have only won 1 of the last 24 visits to Old Trafford, so Koeman was really hoping that he'd be able to change Everton's fortunes. However, the way he set the team up, this was never ever going to happen. All right, Everton haven't actually won an away game in the Premier League since January, and you could see why in this game. They have absolutely no pace. And his tactics meant that Everton were just going to get bombarded, especially in the first half. It was so easy for Manchester United. The defenders were actually halfway into Everton's half for most of that first half, which shows how deep Everton were, just allowing the pressure to come onto them. And then whenever they tried to break, Everton just had absolutely no pace whatsoever, so they couldn't. So it was very, very easy for United. Now, don't get me wrong, as the game went on, Everton were a lot better. Definitely deserved to be on the score sheet, especially Wayne Rooney, who had a fantastic game. But when you actually look at, and I know Everton has spent a lot of money in this, but when you look at the players Everton have signed, and then you look at the players they've let go, all this talk about top 4 and how they'll definitely be challenging for the top 4, it might be premature. And the best example of that is Wayne Rooney. For example, they let Romelu Lukaku go to Manchester United, 75, 90 million, however much it was. Obviously, the prices vary depending on where you look. But then they take on a player who can't even get into Manchester United's first team. Now, don't get me wrong, Rooney had a good game, but that just shows you some of the decision-making that has been made at Everton over the summer with regards to bringing players in. And you could really see that in this game. And as I said, they did play well in that second half. Obviously, to be honest with you, the way I see it, Everton were the making of their own downfall, and it turned out that in the end, individual mistakes would cost them big time. To start things off, United were fantastic, all right? And Antonio Valencia scored an absolute belter of a goal. It was actually his first goal since 2014. But, there were question marks over Pickford. Was his positioning right? But to be honest with you, I can't really blame him too much because it was an absolutely wonderful strike from Antonio Valencia, who doesn't score too often. And, he really leathered that, so fair play to him. Obviously, as I was saying, Romelu Lukaku's made a fantastic start to life at Manchester United. He's now got 7 goals in 7 games in the Premier League for Manchester United. Great start for him. Only Louis Saha and Robin van Persie have made similar starts, which, if he turns out to be as good as those two were for United, that holds him in very, very good esteem. Now, one thing that United can really be positive about is that since Fergie left, a lot of people have said that the fear factor has gone from Old Trafford. However, when you actually look at United's record at Old Trafford over the last year, they haven't lost since City came to Old Trafford last season in week 4 and beat them 2-1. Now, I know, don't get me wrong, they drew a fair few games last year, like the 1-1 draw against Everton and the 1-1 draw against West Ham. But this season, they really seem to be making Old Trafford a fortress again, scoring plenty of goals. And when you look at the fact that United have now beaten both of those sides 4-0, that's a real statement of intent for the season ahead. So overall, a very, very good day at Old Trafford for Manchester United. It was also a very good day at Vicarage Road for Manchester City, who picked up a 6-0 away win at Watford. Now, City, for me, have got the best squad on paper. That's why I've tipped them for the Premier League title, just edging Manchester United. And you could see the sheer strength in their team when you looked at this result. Watford, again, the making of their own downfall. Silva almost felt like he had something to prove. And Watford, for me, got it completely wrong because they decided that they would try and basically outplay City at their own game, which is passing the ball, keeping the ball, playing beautiful football. And they shouldn't have done that. They should have, dug in deep, defended really well, and tried to catch City on the counter-attack. Because against Man City, you're never, ever going to have more possession than them. It's just the way that they are. It's the way all Pep Guardiola sides have been. So for Watford to try that, especially when their players aren't as good as City's, with no disrespect, it was a foolish mistake for me, and they were punished for it. And when you look at the attacking line that City have got, Kevin De Bruyne alone, before we even get into the goals, he created 6 clear-cut goal-scoring opportunities. He's on fire this season. Pretty much everything he does now relates to City coming close to scoring a goal. And then when you look at the players he's got in front of him, look at Gabriel Jesus, for example. He's got 11 goals in his last 15 Premier League games. That's a fantastic, fantastic record. And for someone who's still so young into his Premier League life, it shows how much potential this kid's got. And then when you look at Sergio Aguero, he loves to score against Watford. In 5 games, he's now got 9 goals and 2 hat-tricks against them. And, with regards to him, for his record for City overall, we know that he's closing in now on becoming their all-time leading goal scorer. He's now got 10 hat-tricks for City, and 6 of them have been in the Premier League. So it was a brilliant day for Manchester City all round. Blew Watford apart. And when you consider they've got Crystal Palace next, this could be a very, very good couple of weeks for Manchester City, because they really seem to have their mojo. The only thing that I will say, and Glenn Hoddle pointed this out on BT Sport, it's something that I've said in the past as well, is that City seem to do well in the first 10 games pretty much every single season, the last few seasons, whether it was under Pellegrini or Guardiola. But after that, they always seem to start collapsing a little bit. So I don't really want to judge City too much yet. I want to wait and see what they do after week 10 of the Premier League, because that's when they've seemed to struggle. They almost seem to take their foot off the gas. But if they can keep their foot on the gas this season, then I don't see there being any reason why they couldn't finish top of the Premier League, or maybe even win the Champions League. So, very, very good weekend for Manchester City. The game that should have been the major talking point of the weekend was a bit of a letdown overall. Mainly because Arsenal actually put in a decent performance at Stamford Bridge, holding Chelsea to a 0-0 draw at home. Now, going into this game, we know that Antonio Conte has made a much more bigger deal of Cesc Fabregas this season. And you can really see that because Cesc Fabregas actually started his 3rd game in a row for the first time since Antonio Conte took over. Now, when you consider how well Chelsea have done under Conte, Stamford Bridge has been a real fortress for them under Conte. Don't get me wrong, they've had a few defeats, but overall, you can always rely that Chelsea are going to get a decent result at the Bridge. You can see that in the fact that this was the first time in a home game that Chelsea have failed to score since Conte's been their manager, and that's in 27 games. So, pretty big stats there. And going into this game, you would have fully have expected Chelsea to have won this game. They were definitely favourites, which I picked them to as well, because I thought they would win 3-0. And that's because in their last 5 Premier League home games, they've blitzed Arsenal and won all 5. So, for Arsenal to get a result here is a good point. I definitely think it's a point gained as opposed to a point lost, especially when you consider it's Arsenal's first away point of the season. But, one thing you can always consider, aside from goals, maybe not in this game, when it comes to Chelsea v Arsenal, is that there's always going to be a player sent off. For the 3rd time in a row, Arsenal and Chelsea did see a player sent off. David Luiz with a pretty awful tackle. Definitely deserved the red card that he got. No complaints there. But, a lot of people saying, this is so much better from Arsenal. This is absolutely brilliant. Good performance. Yeah, all right, don't get me wrong. It was. But for me, Arsenal fans still can't really get that excited. Yes, it was a good one-off performance. But unfortunately, Arsenal, the reason you guys aren't getting into the top 4, or have, all right, last season you didn't, but the season before only just got into the top 4, really. And then you look at the fact that, all right, I know you finished 3rd that season before, but it was still a pretty lacklustre season. And then you look at the fact that, you guys aren't even challenging for the league titles in God knows how long now. It's because you guys are so bad against top 6 opposition. And when you look at your record, especially away from home, your last away win against the top 6 side, and when I say top 6, I mean last year's top 6, came on January the 18th in 2015 when you beat Manchester City away. Since then, you've played 14, lost 8 and drawn 6. And that just simply isn't good enough. And when you look at, their last 6 games alone, you've lost 5, drawn 1, you've scored 3 times, but conceded 14. And that says an awful lot. So if Arsenal are going to get anywhere near the title or the top 4, they need to make their performances against the top 6 an awful lot better. Obviously, the big talking point from that game was that Alexis Sanchez started on the bench. For me, it was the wrong call. Don't get me wrong, Arsenal played well. But, you guys could have nicked that if Sanchez had been playing. So big question marks for there over Wenger. But as I said, point gained as opposed to point lost. It was also a frustrating day for Liverpool when they were held at home to Burnley. Now, even though Liverpool had a ridiculous amount of shots, I think it was like 35, Burnley will also feel unlucky that they didn't come away from this game with a win. Now, Burnley did very, very well because they actually scored the first away goal that the team's got at Anfield in the Premier League since April. And when you consider that Liverpool, since Klopp took charge, have now scored almost 200 goals, or 196, this is a very, very good point at Anfield. But, there is unfortunately something wrong, especially defensively at Liverpool. I think it's very naive that because they didn't get Van Dijk, they didn't go back out into the market and bring in another centre-back, because it's clear that their defence isn't strong enough. And, at the moment, they could struggle to make top four. Definitely not in a title picture for me. And it's such a shame, because a few weeks ago against Arsenal, I was like, this is it. This is the benchmark. Liverpool have really laid down the gauntlet here and said, we are a different animal this season. But then, obviously, the loss to City, the draw to Sevilla, and the draw here at home to Burnley have shown that, no, I was wrong, and I'm holding my hands up. There are big cracks in there. Now, don't get me wrong, they can turn it around, just like Chelsea have, but sadly, I don't think Liverpool are going to come close to winning the league this year. I think top four is their best hope for what they can do this year, and maybe something like an FA Cup or a League Cup. But I mean, it's not also the fact that it's not just the fact they haven't done too well defensively. They were wasteful at the weekend. All right, Salah, don't get me wrong, has been absolutely fantastic for Liverpool. One of the signings of the summer. He's got his 5th goal of the season already in all competitions. That's in 8 games in all competitions, which is absolutely brilliant. And attacking-wise, they are phenomenal. In their last 2 games, Liverpool have had 59 shots, and their opponents have only managed a combined 12 between them. But despite this, Liverpool have drawn in both games. So they need to address this soon if they are going to get their season to really progress on and do better than what they did last season. However, one, I suppose, kind of positive to take away is that Liverpool finally gained 1,000 home points in the Premier League, in the Premier League era. So congratulations on that point. Definitely wasn't in the way that you would have hoped it would be. But, something to point out here is, you hear about how Klopp is, a real dynamic manager and he's doing so well. And don't get me wrong, I love Jurgen Klopp. I think he plays very, very good football. And if he had one world superstar, I honestly think, say like he still had Suarez, Liverpool would win the league for me. But when you consider that Newcastle are a club in crisis at the moment, according to fans, and you listen to the owner and listen to the manager, and the fact that things haven't gone as well as they hoped they would, Newcastle are still above Liverpool in the table, and I think that says an awful lot there. Now, don't get me wrong, I've said we've had a frustrating weekend for Arsenal, frustrating weekend for Chelsea, frustrating weekend for Liverpool, and it was also a frustrating weekend for Tottenham because they drew 0-0 at home to Swansea, and they are yet to win at home in the Premier League, and it just wasn't good enough. Spurs do not look at the races, and you would have thought after the Dortmund game that they would have been on fire. Unfortunately, they weren't, though. Swansea, good away point, but Tottenham need to sort themselves out very, very soon if they're going to be challenging for the title. Now, moving on to some teams that actually won. Bournemouth finally picked up their first 3 points this season. Sermon ended a run of 68 Premier League games without a goal. So good for him. Good to see him on the score sheet. And Jermaine Defoe, the patron saint of the Premier League, scored for the 17th different Premier League season. Only that record is only bettered by Lampard, Scholes and Giggs. So it shows that Defoe is a true veteran of the Premier League. Great first 3 points picked up by Bournemouth there. Brighton were a little bit unlucky, but they can bounce back next weekend. They do face Bournemouth in midweek in the Carabao Cup, so maybe they can get some revenge there. Huddersfield v Leicester, another draw. Now, again, another good result for Huddersfield because, Leicester are a decent team. They will feel very frustrated that Chikunga's goal was disallowed for offside when it wasn't really. Some more frustrating officiating there, but, it was a close call. But the main thing I really want to take away from this game is Jamie Vardy, because I've heard so many people say that he's just a one-season wonder. And I think he's proven everyone wrong. Now, he was phenomenal when Leicester won the league. Goes down as a cult hero without a shadow of a doubt. But since then, he's been good. And I mean, you look at his record. The last 18 games in the Premier League, he scored 12 goals. That's brilliant. And he's got 4 goals already this season. He's joint top goal scorer. So, fair play to him because he's proving that, you don't have to be a world superstar to be a decent Premier League player. And he's not a one-season wonder. And he's in his 30s. So, well done, Jamie Vardy. Very, very good. Another draw in the Premier League this weekend. So West Brom and West Ham draw 0-0 at the Hawthorns. But the main talking point from this game is the record that was set by Gareth Barry, who made his Premier League debut 19 years ago. And only 6, just to give you an idea as to how impressive that record is, 6 current Premier League players that are registered in all 20 Premier League teams weren't even born yet when that took place. So congratulations to Gareth Barry. He breaks the record of becoming the first player to start 600 Premier League games. So fantastic, true professional, and something to really, really enjoy. And I think next week he sets the record for the most Premier League appearances of all time because he equalled Ryan Giggs' record this weekend, and obviously will eclipse it next weekend. Finally, we're going to finish off with 2 teams that actually won this weekend. Newcastle beat Stoke at St James's Park. This was massive for Newcastle because, like I said, when you consider that this is a team in crisis, they've won 3 Premier League games in a row for the first time since 2013. The captain, Lascelles, has scored all 4 of his Premier League goals from headers, from corners. He'll be very, very thankful that the referee didn't give the penalty there before Newcastle took the corner that he ultimately scored the winner from. But I mean, this was a big result for Newcastle. I honestly thought Stoke were going to get something from the game, especially when Shaqiri pulled them back into it. Shaqiri now, all 6 of his Premier League goals have actually come from outside the box, so you can't allow him within that 25-30 yard range from goal. But Newcastle did enough to get the points. Big win for them, keeps the momentum going, and Rafa Benitez is really starting to get the results that everyone kind of expected, because he is a very, very good manager. And when you look at the team he has, it shows how good a manager he is, because Newcastle on paper, for me, don't have that strong a squad. But hey, fair play to them. They're doing very, very well after what was a bit of a worrying start to the season. And finally, we're going to end at Selhurst Park, where Crystal Palace also set a new record this weekend, but it's one that no team would want. They set a record for the first team in Premier League history to lose their first 5 games and become the first team in Premier League history to not score in their first 5 games. Overall, they break the Premier League record for going 450 minutes without scoring. So yeah, that's a woeful couple of records there that you guys no doubt don't want. When you look at your next 3 games, you've got Man City away, Man United away, and then Chelsea. Oh, man, that's got a sting. I don't think things are going to get any better for you until after those games. So I'm very, very sorry, Palace fans. Look, Hodgson will hopefully do you a good job. Obviously, there's going to be big question marks over him. And at 70 years old, he's the oldest newly appointed manager in Premier League history. So it's whether or not he can really connect with your squad. We'll just have to wait and see. As for Southampton, great away win after a difficult couple of weeks. Lamina, your summer signing from Juventus, really showed his quality here. He looked on a different level to everyone. But then when you consider he is a player that's won the Champions League, this could be a very exciting season for you guys in terms of him as a player. But a very, very bright start for him at Southampton. And that pretty much sums up all of the weekend's action from Week 5 of the 2017-2018 Premier League season. What were your major talking points? With the facts that I've spilled out, are there any in particular that really intrigue you? What are the main things that you guys would like to talk about? Please drop me a comment below. Let me know. As always, I'm Aaron Whitnall. Please don't forget to subscribe to ACW Sport, and I will see you later on this week.